broadcast. You're a part of the Resistance.
Star Wars Episode 9 is being released in 31 different parts, and it's going to be released one part for every day in December of 2019. That's the latest rumor, and I'm just starting it now. Welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. I am John Hoey. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to make your Monday as easy as possible, and we have a great show as we're going to do things a little differently today. News is light, so we're going to tackle some rumors, just like that stupid one I just created that's been floating around about Star Wars as we get going here. But before I do, of course, let's say hello to James Bainey and Lacey Gillerin. What's going on, guys?
It is all about Mandalore, if that rumor is true, but I hope it is. We'll get to that later. How you doing, Lacey?
I'm good. Still a little hurt from last week, but I'm doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk Star Wars.
Okay. All right, okay. Before we pop into those rumors in the Resistance report, which I guess we're going to call the Resistance Rumor Review or something like that, we do have poll results, and we asked you which upcoming Star Wars TV series release are you most excited about / looking forward to watching. And 12% of you, only 12% of you, said the new anime-based series Resistance. 43% said the revival of the Clone Wars, and by 2 points, everyone, well, the majority, want to see Jon Favreau's live-action show. Guys, I was not surprised about this, although I thought it would get a bigger percentage. I'm pumped about this Favreau thing too, Mandalore or not. How about you guys?
See, here's what I am surprised about. I'm not surprised about the order. Like, I saw the poll when it first got put up, and I thought, all right, well, this obviously makes sense to me. Most people are going to be excited about live action simply because it's live action. The second best is going to be Clone Wars because it already has a built-in thing, and the loser of this is going to be the Resistance because we really don't know much about it at all. I'm kind of surprised that Clone Wars was able to keep up with, like, new Star Wars live action show. You know what I mean? Like, assuming it's 10 episodes, it's 1 hour long each. That's 5 movies. We're getting 5 Star Wars movies, if you can look at it like that. Or we're getting 10, 20 or 12 or whatever it is, 24-minute animated Clone Wars episodes. It's like totally a different spectrum, but yet it kept up. And that's what I was surprised about. I knew Favreau was going to win, but I'm surprised Clone Wars was like that close,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. There's not much to add. I mean...
Yeah, I laid it out.
No, I totally agree with all that. Resistance is one of those things that, like, we haven't heard much about it, so I can't see people getting excited about it. Clone Wars, people are still riding that high from San Diego, and with the Favreau rumors / news on budgets this week, I'm sure people are just, like, really excited to have a Star Wars show. I know I am. I'm not excited to pay for another streaming service, but we'll talk about that at another time.
Yeah, the more I think about Resistance and see the art and stuff, I'm starting to side more with what I think James had said a few weeks back, and I think that may actually lean more towards a kid-oriented type of show, even though Filoni's doing it, but we'll see. I'm definitely most excited about the Favreau thing because I've been a fan of his since Swingers, so like talking about over 20 years, and I know he always brings it, and I think he's going to bring a great product to us, regardless of what it is, even though I'm not a fan of that rumor about the whole Mandalore thing, but we can talk more about that later. We did have a tie for best comments. The most liked comments went to 2 people. The first one was by Johnamarie Macias at Blue Jay Guys, and she said option D, the untitled Sabine and Ahsoka Go Find Ezra project. And what you can't argue with, maybe that is in the works. We'll see.
She's the driving factor behind hashtag Where's Ezra. She's all about it. She interviewed Filoni at Lucasfilm. She's all about it.
Oh yeah,
Rebels is her jam.
It's funny
So
too. If that option were on the table, I think that still would have beat Resistance. I think it would have fell in between Resistance and Clone Wars.
Probably, yeah. But she did say, I did, however, choose C. So
yeah,
there you go. So and the second comment went to Jarrett at Jarrett MG, who said Resistance because it's the least developed era in Star Wars, and I'm excited for more background. I'm really looking forward to the others as well, but we have little to no info on Favreau's show, and I've had a lot of Clone Wars already. So he's kind of done with the Clone Wars, I guess. Ready to find some new stuff, and you can't blame him. So thanks for those comments. We appreciate that. That wraps up the poll stuff for this week. James, the rumor review, whatever we want to call it here, what is going on this week, man?
It's the Resistance.
All right, this week we're going to be taking a look at 3 rumors that have been floating around the Star Wars internet sphere. And the first one, I think, comes from a little bit of hope. A little bit of hope that Episode 9 won't be the end. One going around right now is that there's a possibility that Disney is considering splitting Episode 9 into 2 movies. So we're talking, Twilight, we're kind of talking Harry Potter, we're kind of talking Hunger Games. That's a pretty common trend, so it does seem plausible to that extent. But what do you guys think about this rumor? John, do you have any insight on what you think this might be true? Is this possible?
No, because I think with all those movies, we knew that was going to be the case when they were filming it, that they went into it without hiding it. Now, why would Star Wars say we're filming Episode 9, the final chapter in the Skywalker saga? There's no reason to hide that they'd be splitting it. There's no benefit that they could have from doing that. So this just seems like one of those rumors that gets started out of nowhere. And people are like, well, I'm just going to report it and just put it out there and keep that fire rolling. It doesn't make any sense at all to me. And it doesn't seem like anything Star Wars has ever done, will ever do. This seems extremely baseless to me. And the other part of it, from a legal perspective, contract perspective, I believe the main actors only signed on for 3 movies. And if you're splitting this up into 2 parts, then you're talking about adding negotiations in that had to come into play for a 4th movie. Mm-hmm. And some of them may have had issues with that. That probably would have leaked out from publicists or whatever, PR, whatever you want to call it. And we've already heard like whispers like Adam Driver in negotiations for the 4th Star Wars movie, contract problems here, contracts there. None of that happened. So for that reason alone, I think it's also a wash, aside from the obvious reason that it's just not Star Wars. Yeah,
I agree. I think that there's this weird thing where we think that last one could be split and it's easy, but if they're not going to make Episode 9 Part 2, that would just be silly, right? So the other thing would be
the crawl.
Episode 10. So, they're just going to extend it to 10. There's some slight merit to the sense that you have a nice, even 10 movies that is the Skywalker saga. But at that...
We joked about that months ago.
I know, we talked about it. Yeah. But for me personally, I think the biggest reason why this isn't going to happen is there's so much to wrap up. Is there? Because they're writing the story. No one already wrote this. I think 9 times out of 10, when these movies get split into these other things, they go, the last book had so much in it, and we want to cover all of it that we're going to put it into the movie, and it requires more than 2 hours. That everyone that I mentioned was a book first. And the only time I'd ever seen something split just for the sake of making money or trying to expand it was the Hobbit stuff. And there was some things where they were like, well, we're going to add it in, but this is weird. There's no precedent. There's no book first, or there's no story. Mm-hmm. They can just go in and write a 2-hour story. Like, it's not that crazy. And that to me is exactly what they're going to do. And then they have 3 solid trilogies and a story. So Lacey, I know we're not giving you a whole lot to work with unless you got another point. Do you agree, disagree? You think this is going to happen?
So I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's kind of like a money grab at this point to split these movies into 2, and it just doesn't make sense. And
wait, it doesn't make sense to make more money?
No, it does make sense in the sense of tradition, which is what I was going to say.
All right, gotcha.
With Star Wars is to break them into two. With the young adult stuff, which I am a fan of young adult stuff like Hunger Games and Harry Potter. Not a big fan of Twilight. I read the books, but not a big fan. Twilight was definitely a money grab. That book is not that long and not that big of a deal to split it into two. That was ridiculous. That was the first one that you were like, okay, you're clearly just looking for more money. Harry Potter is the one that I agree with you, James. They split that up because that book was like legit the size of a refrigerator. It was huge. And they had to cover so much stuff going on. So that makes sense. The Hunger Games, on the other hand, Suzanne Collins, who wrote The Hunger Games, who's actually a Connecticut Newtown resident.
Really?
Yeah, she lives in Newtown, which is about 15 minutes from me. Fun fact. She had the movie rights for the first book before she wrote the third book. The third book, we're not going to go into crazy. If you want to talk to me about it, go on Twitter, but that book sucks. So they split that movie into two to make more money with Jennifer Lawrence. That's all that was. Harry Potter, I completely agree with, but no, I don't see them doing this with Star Wars.
Lacey, which movie, I didn't see any of those movies. Which movie was the line in the trailer that makes me laugh when she was like, if you're gonna burn with us.
I believe that was part one.
Yeah, I was going to say Mockingjay. Yeah, first
Mockingjay part one, where she dials
Okay,
it
so
in.
my impression was so good, you knew exactly what I was talking about.
Oh, well, also dialogue.
Catching Fire was the best one.
Yeah, I would have to
I
say
heard those
that's the
movies
most truthful adaptation. That's what I'm trying to get out.
Except it was stolen from Japanese films, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So it was Star Wars, right?
Yeah. I want to say one more thing, one more element of is it a cash grab? Like, well, come on, guys. Why wouldn't Disney want to make more money? This is an opportunity to make more money. And to be honest with you, all those other movies that are cash grabs are like, oh, shoot, when we finish this Hunger Games run or this Twilight run or whatever, we're out of books. We're out of movies.
Yeah, Lionsgate's got no money.
Star Wars is not out of movies. It's not out of potential. They know that as soon as these movies are done, yes, that's true. It could be the end of the Skywalker saga, but there's so many more movies they're planning, so many more ways to make money. They don't need to stretch that story.
Merchandising, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You know what's like, but real quick, just like we've heard, and I guess we're going to get into more rumors now, but like we've heard the most outrageous of outrageous Star Wars rumors from, every sequel. Luke Skywalker's the bad guy, and Luke Skywalker's Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren has a twin, and there's a big Luke.
Right.
So far, all those aren't rumors. Those are true.
Those are true. All of those, to me, seem more possible than them splitting up Episode 9 into two parts, and I'm not even kidding. So that's where I'm at there. I mean...
All right, well, let's talk about the next one. So we've got Jon Favreau's show coming up, and there's actually kind of two here that we kind of should both talk about. Number one is that there's rumors about the budget. 10 million an episode for 10 episodes, $100 million.
Wasn't the shareholder
show.
meeting this week? That's where this is coming from?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
So, and then we're later hearing that it could potentially even be more than that. So there's one thing, do you guys think that makes sense for the money? And then the other thing is just, and we can bring it up here in a second, but I'll touch on it, is that this show could be about Mandalore and Mandalorians in general and their whole world. And that could be the center, the focus of this story. So John, you want to kick it off with the budget thing first?
Yeah, because that's the part I want to talk about the most. Yeah, sure. Definitely. I don't see how that wouldn't be the case. Like you just said, you're talking about content, right? You're talking about allegedly, say, 10 episodes at least, probably an hour each episode. That's 10 hours of content. That's 5 Star Wars movies worth. On a normal scale, 5 Star Wars movies is, what, $1 billion to make? So to say you're going to budget this at 10 million an episode, like I think that's low maybe.
Isn't that Game of Thrones level? That's what they were saying?
Yeah.
So right. I think
So-
it stacks up next to the final seasons of Game of Thrones. Whereas so if this is the beginning of the show and they're starting here as the show grows and needs bigger budgets, this easily has the potential to be the most expensive television show per episode.
My biggest thing with this, if we're supposed to watch this in this galaxy, in this universe, and suspend our disbelief and feel like it's in that world, it has to look and feel like it, not feel cheap. So they have to go all out, or else it's going to be like some kind of knockoff type of situation. I don't want a watered down Star Wars just because it's not theatrical. I want Star Wars, so they better put the budget into this thing, especially because I'm going to be ponying up my money for that streaming service. So it doesn't surprise me, those numbers, and I would not be shocked if it's higher.
You mean like old school Doctor Who? You ever seen those shows? I'm sorry, guys. If you're listening and you're a Doctor Who fan, they need more budget for that show. Those graphics are terrible.
I mean, any of those old shows, like the old Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno.
I'm talking like not even 10 years ago, Doctor Who. Like Doctor 9, Ninth Doctor and on. It's like sci-fi level
even
graphics.
No offense, people, some of those Star Trek shows, it's like boy. And I just lost anyone who
and
likes
there goes
Star
all
Trek.
other sci-fi people.
So one thing that I'm looking at is, okay, we're saying, wow, 10 million an episode, 100 million per the show. Number one, compared to the movies, we've talked about that a little bit. You know, that seems to be cheap for a Star Wars movie. But we're also looking at, let's say, you got to know Disney's trying to compete with or trying to get money like Netflix is getting money. And right now, reportedly, Netflix is making about $950 million a month. So if there's any way,
Chump change.
If there's any way that Disney can start to cut into that, like let's say they're making 1/10 of that. That's roughly the budget for this movie in a month, or this TV show. Yeah, TV show in a month. So, and I know they're not going to make that money right off. Netflix is basically the standard, but I think that Disney has a really good shot with this Disney streaming service because in my household, and I don't know about Lacey's, but in my household, it's a no-brainer. When that comes out, we're getting it. Hands down, there's no question.
I'm going to get it. I just don't want to pay.
And I think that's the
You're
thing.
talking to someone that has Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and cable. Yeah, I have it all.
I think like in one single shot, like the day it launches, there's going to be enough $10 subscriptions to pay for a lot of this, if not the whole thing in one chunk. But
and it's
all
going
the
to be
Disney
less
catalog.
than Netflix.
Yeah, and the Disney catalog will be on there, like all the Disney movies.
Except for the Star Wars movies.
Some analysts are guessing that they may launch this thing at like $5 or $6 a month.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, I wasn't joking about that. Is that we're currently in a kind of a tie-up with Time Warner and their rights to the Disney movies and stuff. So it is very likely that we will not get the Star Wars movies on the streaming service from the get-go. I think like 2024 or something is what I heard, maybe.
Correct. Yes, and we'll hear more about that in our rundown later.
Yeah. I'm jumping the gun a little. Let's get to the meat and bones of this. I don't even know if that's the correct phrase, but let's get to the main thing here. Is this show about Mandalore? And I'm gonna toss it to Lacey, but I am gonna say I hope so. I'm gonna give that tease. I hope so.
Ugh.
All right, what do you say, Lacey?
I think that, I believe the budget part, given that the shareholders meeting was this week or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I believe that. The Mandalore thing, I think people are grasping. And you know what? If that's what it ends up to be, I'll watch it. Am I excited about it? I don't really care. I don't really care about Mandalore or Mandalorians or anything Mando. Sorry, guys. It's not my cup of tea.
All right, John, you go for it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. One, because Mandalore's overrated. I don't think it's a big, important piece of the overall story of Star Wars. Yeah, we get it. But I think it had its place, and they told it well enough. I don't think it needs another platform, to be honest with you. And also, just from again, a business perspective, like, come get the Disney streaming service. We are launching our first ever live action Star Wars series to all of you people outside of the Star Wars bubble. This series is about Mandalore.
Yeah. What?
Darth Vader? Is Darth Vader in that? No. Luke Skywalker? No. Boba Fett? No, it's not. He looks like it, but it's not him. Oh, well, I still have Netflix, so bye.
Here's the thing is, the Mandalore stories are completely untapped potential. It's another Old Republic for me. It's totally something that people want. Yeah, you're yawning. I know. I hear you. But the Mandalore, the culture behind them is crazy. It's practically another empire. It's this. I know you guys know what it is, but it's this planet and these people that are warriors, and they conquer and they take over. And to say that this TV show is going to be happening 2 or 3 years after the fall of the empire, you think they're sitting back? You think they're sitting watching Netflix waiting for the Disney streaming service? No, they're strategizing. They're trying to figure out how they can expand and they can grow their empire, the empire within the Mandalore empire. And these people are driven, and I don't know. I just think it's such a great time frame, especially if you start to think, okay, well, what could they do? You know what I mean? They could do Old Republic, but we think that's going to happen in movies. They could do, Thrawn or something like that, but I don't know. That seems kind of strange too. It's possible. It's around the right time frame, maybe. Could be this Sabine and going to find Ezra or whatever. That's possible too. But again, I think that standing ground of saying it's a whole new world. Mandalore is, I know the Old Republic is kind of like that too, but like this is kind of a Game of Thronesy thing. These are warrior people and they're fighting over their own land, civil war and stuff. And the fact that it looks like Boba Fett, I know you're joking about it, but that helps. I think that's the way to kind of say, you guys like Boba Fett? You guys like what that whole culture is, that Mandalorian, whatever, bounty hunter, fighters, warriors? Yeah, we're giving you a whole show of it, That being said, too, is like, what are they going to do? They're not going to do Luke. They're not going to do Ben. They're not going to do Rey. They're not going to do Leia and Han. Like, that stuff's all out the door. I get it. That could be a great moneymaker and a great way to get people sucked in, but it's not the right time frame for Obi-Wan. It's like, what main characters do you want? It's going to be the New Republic, if anything. I don't know. I think it makes sense. If it's not that, I'll watch it. But I think if it is that, I think that actually does make sense. Any comebacks, or do you want to talk about the last rumor?
It's just like Mandalore
is boring.
Good one, John. I've changed my mind. So that's my Billy Madison defense.
I'd rather
more like Borophyll.
I'd rather watch a show on pod racing or Gungans over Mandalore.
Ooh.
I get your perspective in terms of the time frame. What else could it be? But man, like, I'm almost kind of bummed they picked that time frame, because like there's a lot of other things I would have loved to have seen them launch this thing with.
Can we get a caretaker sitcom? That's what I want.
We already have it. It's called Dinosaurs, and it was on Fox in the 90s.
No, it was on ABC. TJF.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, TJF.
No, I think. Oh, was it? I thought it was Fox.
Right?
No, it was on TJF.
I thought it was Fox too. All right. Well, our listeners are gonna roll their eyes at one of us.
Star Wars.
You guys want to talk about
when
this?
was dinosaurs?
yeah. You guys want to talk about this last one? So I'm hearing.
Oh my gosh! I don't want to talk about this.
on the Reddits, that this is fact. People have figured it out. This is how we're going to explain Rey's parentage.
Oh my God! Just let it go.
Daughter of Han and Kira. How?
Yep.
John, I'm gonna ask you to do this. Where's the upside of this? Where's the silver lining? Where's the possibility that this could be true? Because I already know that I think all three of us don't believe this. don't see this as possible.
When did this happen?
Yeah. So the only upside here is if they release 9 and it happens, and then they say like, oh my God, Kira's her mother, and here's Kira, and she shows up like an old woman in 9, and then they re-release Solo to try to make more money on Solo.
This is the most ridiculous thing ever. That
would be just a roll of the dice.
Oh my God, stop. Just stop.
All
the
right.
only more ridiculous thing I heard was someone said that Rey was Kira and Darth Maul's daughter.
Ooh.
That was
the time frame doesn't work because Rey's supposed to be 19 at the beginning of The Force Awakens.
She's like legit almost a decade younger than Kylo Ren.
So she would be roughly, let's say 19, 20, somewhere in there. So that's about 10 years after Return of the Jedi. And that would have to mean, number one, Kira's still alive, which is plausible. We know that Han Solo is
20 years
alive.
after the events of Solo. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. But it's possible she could still be around. And then you would have to think that he would have cheated on Leia after their marriage, after Ben was born.
Right.
And then the stabbing of Han Solo makes so much more relevant.
So maybe it's like the movie Scream, and that's why Kylo Ren wants to kill Rey, because his dad.
He doesn't want to kill
Rey. And in this narrative, in this alternate timeline, he does, because in this timeline, Rey is Kira's daughter.
So that makes it his sister. Why won't people just let this go?
It's the same thing when people said she was Jyn Erso's daughter. It's insanity.
Just because it's a British woman with brown hair doesn't make it her mom.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if it was like, imagine like Han Solo and Kira were both black. People would still be like, what if maybe they're her parents? It's just like people are just so outrageous with these theories. They put no limitations on anything.
I don't understand. No one else ever asked about a character's parentage. Like no one else, we were like, who's Lando's parents? Who are Finn's parents? Who are, we know who Poe's parents are, but, who's Phasma's parents? Like no one cared. Why does it matter? The only reason it mattered at first was the question was, is it Luke's daughter? It's not. Move on. Let it go. We know she doesn't have. Oh God, I can't talk about this anymore.
Yeah, the parentage thing and the lineage thing all comes from the original big spoiler of, I am your father. And ever since then, it's been they led us to believe that he was a nobody, but it turns out he has family lineage that is important, and maybe that's why he's so powerful, and all that thing just it cycles our thought process into the same things over and over and over again. Well, who is this girl? And then I think JJ fed into that a little bit. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know, but I think that's where a lot of this stuff all stems from.
Spray bottle that I could spray people like stop
like a Twitter spray.
Yeah,
like a Facebook poke, but that actually works.
No, down. Yeah, no. So annoying.
All right, guys. I think we've talked enough about these 3 rumors. There is one story in the Scoundrels Rundown that I think is important enough to have already talked about it. But hey, we'll give it to John.
John.
All right, Chewie, this is going to be a quick one. It's going to be like 2 parsecs, so punch it. All right, James. Yeah, we have one story in the rundown, and it's simple. It has to do with that streaming service. And Bob Iger revealed that Disney's streaming service is likely to launch without the previously released Star Wars movies pre-Episode 9. So Episode 9 will likely be the first movie, and then going forward, of Star Wars movies to appear on the streaming service, which I don't think that it changes the game for everybody, but I imagine a lot of people thought, all right, great, I'll get this streaming service, and then anytime I want, wherever I am, whether it's my phone, my tablet, at home, I can watch Episode 1, 2, 3, and so on. Not the case, not until probably 2024, when the rights get released back. So get your streaming service, buckle in, enjoy the new stuff from 2019 going forward, but until 2024, you're gonna have to wait for all the old stuff, and no, you're probably still not getting a cut of the unaltered original trilogy. And that's it for this rundown. For all of our stories, head to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day. That'll do it. Now it's time to send it over to Lacey for Ask the Resistance. Chewie, get us out of here, pal.
Okay, guys, it's time for Ask the Resistance. You asked your questions. We've got some answers.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
So our first question comes from Joshua Bullard at Darth Glucosa.
Yeah.
All right. And he asks, do you think that Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice novel could be a mission in which Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon protect Satine on Mandalore? Her relationship with Obi-Wan and reason for abandoning Mandalore's warrior past shown. I'm going to start with James on this one, because this is like a James question.
It's possible. It's possible. Right now, the only thing we know about this is Master and Apprentice. So where is Obi-Wan willing to draw the line on being an apprentice to the Master? And where that comes into question is Obi-Wan saying at one point that, Satine, she's kind of an ex-girlfriend. We had a relationship a while ago, but we really don't have a time frame. The other thing is that when she's in trouble or whatever, and he says, I would have left. I would have left it all if you would have said the word, if you wanted me to leave. So he would have left his apprenticeship with Qui-Gon, underneath the Master, for her. So it's possible that, if somebody wanted to get into, the angle of how much the Jedi Order means to Obi-Wan, this could be part of the story. That being said, too, Master and Apprentice opens the door for hundreds of other stories. It's just, I think we're kind of pulling to that specifically because the time frame seems to line up and it's familiar to us. It's a story that really hasn't been told. But it's possible. I'm going to go with plausible on this one.
John, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, that's not happening. Yeah. No, only because I think you have a book called Master and Apprentice, and you're focusing on those two in that relationship. If you bring in Satine into that, you're kind of wedging wedging in between the Master and Apprentice, and you're diffusing the purpose of the novel, in my opinion, and you're probably mixing it all up a little too much. So I'd be shocked if they did that. I know James said it's possible. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I'm going to defer to you guys. I think this book is supposed to take place before Phantom Menace, right?
Yes.
So, I mean,
Yep.
Like James said, there's so many possibilities. I don't think they'll go into this, but I'm interested to see what they do because I really want them to go on like a crazy mission where they make references in Phantom Menace to that mission, but we'll see.
Sure.
Okay, next question comes from Jeffrey Fishbach at Porgbach. Clearly, Jeffrey likes porgs. He asks, besides Thrawn, parenthesis, which everyone is speculating, who do you think Richard E. Grant is playing in episode 9? First of all, he posted the most adorable video this past week, where he said that when he found out he had auditioned randomly for something and didn't know what he auditioned for, and then found out it was for that. And then now he's in Star Wars and he can't stop smiling, and that's amazing. I'm going to start with John. Who do you think he's going to play?
Definitely Dark Side. I don't think you bring this guy in if you're looking for another Resistance general or whatever. And honestly, we've gotten it. I've beaten this like beating the dead horse here. You look at the toys for these sides here in the Resistance, you have all these people. And they're bringing Lando back too. And Luke's coming back. And Rey's stronger and all them. Everyone else is grown and stronger. And then you look at the Dark Side and you have Hux and Kylo Ren. And then a bunch of stormtroopers. Phasma's gone. You need another dark side presence. And I know we've talked about the Knights of Ren coming back. Maybe this guy's a part of like that faction. I can see him just being another dark side power person in the First Order that we haven't necessarily seen yet, but he's been a big part of the First Order. Kind of like what people were hoping Captain Kennedy would be after they saw him, kind of wishing more out of that kind of character. This guy's known for playing villains on things that we've seen, so I could see them kind of going to him for that similar type of role. And again, the Resistance and light side is too crowded. And like I said, Lando's coming back. There's no reason in my mind to see introducing an older another person on that side of the aisle. So I'm going full dark side with this guy. Book it.
James, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to start off with besides Thrawn, which everyone's speculating. I know everyone's speculating that. I just really don't think he's going to be Thrawn because
he's not. No way.
Yeah, if you're going to bring Thrawn into a movie, you don't bring him into like one movie out of nowhere and trying to explain to an audience who this guy is. If they really wanted to do movies with Thrawn, they would do his own standalone, or they would do like a trilogy with him or something. I don't think they wedge him into this story. The other thing is who do you think he's going to play? Kind of meaning or hinting at that he's also going to be playing someone that we're already familiar with. And I think that's very unlikely. It's very, very, very likely that he's just a new character. John, I know you kind of played on the whether he's good or bad. And I agree. I think he could be a bad person. He could be, I don't know. He kind of seems like a nice guy. I kind of feel like they would give him a resistance or some sort of older leadership role on the good side, whereas the Carrie, Russell, and Naomi, they seem like they would be maybe on dark side. I don't know. But my gut reaction is that he's going to be playing a new character and not like a brought to the live action version of a character we've already seen.
Wait, are you trying to tell me he's not going to be Rey's grandfather?
He is that. Yes.
Okay.
He is Han Solo's father.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yes.
He's Han's dad.
gosh.
Yes.
And
He's going to be like a
teleported-
commander or something, guys. He's not going to be anything crazy. That's
No,
what
I
I
agree,
think.
yeah.
There's
That's
my
what you
answer.
think,
He's
yeah.
going to be like a commander.
So you think commander on the Resistance side?
No, on the dark side.
Oh,
Definitely
okay.
dark
There you
side.
go.
Well,
Yeah,
let-
I'm on board with that.
Let's lead into this, actually. I heard a rumor, too, that he might play a younger Snoke. And I thought, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why wouldn't they just bring in Andy Serkis to do the same character and, like, clean him up or make him younger digitally? That doesn't make any sense either. But let's go on to the last question.
The last question is from Ryan Simi. Is it Simi or Sime? Have we decided yet?
I believe it's Sime, right? Didn't we?
We always say Simi.
Yeah.
I always say that. Sorry, Ryan. At Ryan Scott 00, and he says, no Andy Serkis on the casting list. Will Snoke be a passing mention in episode 9? I'll take this one to start, at least. Yeah, absolutely. They have to mention him. He died in Last Jedi, so they gotta mention him at some point, and you can't have someone like Kylo who was under his, an apprenticeship with Snoke and not have him mention him once. That's a little ridiculous. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into outrageous theories, but I think as filming goes on, there's obviously going to be Snoke theories that come out because, of course. But yeah, I think he's dead and gone. I don't think there's any kind of cloning situation. I don't think he has a twin. I don't think he's coming back like Maul did. He's dead and gone, and they'll mention him. But now looking back, like I do kind of feel like Snoke was also a blah villain, like Andy Serkis. It could have been a lot more. I'm not disagreeing with what they did, but just realizing that episode 9 is going to be here, he's not going to be even a part of it. It just it makes me realize that he really didn't amount to what I thought he would. But yeah, he's just going to be mentioned at some point or another, and that'll be that. And then they'll write a book about it and his past, and that'll be Snoke's story.
James, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with John on that. I also think, okay, how much of the movie was Benicio del Toro in The Last Jedi? He had a decent chunk, and when they made the casting announcement, he was one of the people. So we definitely know that if Snoke was going to have any sort of role in this movie that was significant, he would have been in that casting announcement, because Benicio del Toro is a good example of someone who was. My thing, yeah, I honestly think that's exactly it. Will Snoke only be a passing mention in 9? His name's going to get brought up. It's going to get said. They're going to mention a lot about like, well, now that since Snoke died and Kylo took over and blah, 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 that's going to be the main point. Going back to what John was saying a minute ago, I think that we thought that this movie was going to be about, or this trilogy was going to be about figuring out who Snoke is and how he's the new emperor, and we're going to defeat Snoke in the third movie. And The Last Jedi proved that guys, plot twist, it's not about Snoke. It's about Kylo.
Mm-hmm.
Kylo is the villain. They're making him the Godfather. He starts out okay, like bad, but then he just gets worse and worse and worse. Right. And I think that's where they're going. And I know there's much debate over that, but we're talking about Snoke, and I think that you're exactly right, Ryan. Snoke will only be a passing mention in 9.
James, now that you, like, when you brought up that he would have been in the casting list, whatever, I got to thinking, like, he's absolutely right, because you wouldn't just have a cameo, which would be uncredited and not listed in the main cast, like Maul was with Solo, because this is wrapping up this story. So the only other way it's possible is if there is some kind of flashback with Kylo showing the moment he like took him in, and we briefly see Snoke and Andy Serkis is there, but he's not a part of the main cast. It was like a quick uncredited type of thing.
Like him reading the lines, like Ewan McGregor reading the lines in Force Awakens.
Kind of, yeah. Right.
I have an even better example too. Andy Serkis in The Force Awakens had a very small role, but they put him in the cast. They said Andy Serkis is going to be the CG character, and so you got to think that if Episode 9 is coming out and he's not even in the cast list, it has to be his presence is going to be less seen than it was in Force Awakens.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's all we got for this week. Thank you guys so much for your questions. If you want to be on the show, ask your question with hashtag AskTheResistance, and maybe you'll be on next week's show. Back to you, John.
All right. One of my favorite segments. Thank you guys again so much. Keep those coming. And thank you, Lacey, for bringing those to the episode. Guys, do us a favor. Subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. If you are an iTunes user, please do us a favor and just take 2 seconds, hop in there, and rate us 5 stars. And if you'd like, leave us a review. It really goes a long way. You guys have given us a lot of those recently, so we really appreciate it. And then also, while you're at it, like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel, throw some likes on our episodes, leave some comments. James is always in there going back and forth with you guys, and Lacey and I hop in when we can as well. We really appreciate the support. Also, go to our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, every day for all of your latest news, reviews, information, editorials, all that good stuff. You guys can find me, John Hoey, on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and writing and editing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com every day. James Beatty, how about you?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to need... I've never done this before, but I'll need 2 caskets. Yes. 2 caskets. There is going to be a war, and I know how it's going to go down. I'll need one for a Lacey Gillerin and another for a John Hoey. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you'll have them ready on Thursday? All right, cool. All right. Thank you. Bye.
What shtick?
You're so funny.
It's like a pro wrestler doing a bit.
If you guys want to reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at MeyerChunks.
Okay, and Lacey, when you're not ordering caskets, where can people find you?
Well, I wasn't ordering caskets. People can find me online.
Cremate us.
Yeah.
People can find me on Twitter at Lacey Gillerin. I'm on there chatting about Star Wars, having a good time. Yeah.
And James just alluded to something, and it's true. You guys probably heard on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, we are bringing back Star Wars Wars this Thursday, where we are going to battle it out. We're each going to pick what we think is the best death in Star Wars and the worst death in Star Wars, and we're going to battle it out.
It's my first time.
Who has the big... the best pick. Yeah, this is Lacey's first time doing a Star Wars War, so we'll see what she can bring to the table. I usually win these things. James will disagree with you.
Whatever.
I just made that up. But anyway, yeah, look forward to that on Thursday because it's going to be a bloodbath. But we'll try to keep it civil. But until then, enjoy your week, and we'll see you on Thursday right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.